I wasn't very well behaved in my teenage years. In fact, I was a little jerk, but I'm sure many of us were at that age. At 17, I had been particularly bad. I'd steal money from other students' pockets and pull pranks on my teachers. I was overconfident because I was able to do things without getting caught. Little did I know I was to receive my comeuppance in a way I never would have imagined. During Christmas vacation, my parents left with my sister to go to my grandparents' house. I was to spend Christmas Eve alone and have them come back in the morning. While they were gone, I was to put the presents under the tree. I waved them goodbye as they backed out of the driveway. Once they disappeared from view, I called up my friend Daniel to throw a party. It was held at his house due to the fact I didn't want to mess at mine. His parents happened to be away as well. The party was intense. There was a lot of drinking, making out, and smoking weed. Our fun was cut short by a neighbor calling the cops because of the noise we were making. Me and the other partygoers bailed, leaving Daniel behind to deal with the mess. My house was in walking distance of his, which meant I was able to get back to it without any trouble. I was satisfied with a day well spent in that I was once again able to evade punishment. I was pretty tired from the party, so I decided to put the presents under the tree and go straight to bed. I was woken up a little after 11 by the sound of someone pounding on the front door. Annoyed, I went down to see who it was. "You freaking ass! How could you ditch me like that?" I heard Daniel yell at me from the other side of the door. I figured my best strategy would be not to respond and wait for him to go away. As I started backing towards the stairs, I heard tapping on the window. I looked and saw Daniel glaring at me, and in his hand, he held the spare key we keep under the mat. "Oh, shit," I murmured. I ran as he undid the locks, then opened the door. I headed for the back door. Unfortunately for me, Daniel ran track after school and was able to catch up to me with ease. He tackled me to the floor, then began wailing on me. I tried my best to reason with him and block his punches as he did so. "Daniel, stop! It couldn't have been that bad, could it?" I shouted while he beat on my arms as I was using them to block my face. "Are you freaking kidding me? The house smelled like weed and there were half-full beer bottles all over the place. I was arrested and had to use my savings to bail myself out. I was trying to save up for a car. Now, thanks to you, I'm back to square one. Not to mention the world of shit I'm going to be in once my parents get home," he screamed, shaking me. He managed to break my guard, then attempted to get his hands around my neck. "Look, I'm sorry, all right?" I told him as I tried to keep him from choking me. "Sorry doesn't cut it," he yelled, cocking back his arm to punch me again. We were interrupted by the sound of rattling chains. We turned to see the source of the noise. Looking down at us was an imposingly tall and furry beast. His horns nearly scraped the ceiling, and his legs matched that of a goat's. His tail whipped back and forth between his legs as he stared with eyes so orange they almost seemed to glow like flames. Over his shoulder he held a large sack, and long hooked chains hung around his arms. I looked at him for a second, then turned to Daniel and asked, "Did someone spike our drinks?" "Not that I know of." "Okay, so you can see him too, right?" "Yeah." The monster took a step forward, making Daniel get off me and both of us scoot away.
"Thanks for leaving the door open. It's much more convenient than going down the chimney,"
the monster said in a deep, growly voice.
"You have been very bad."
"Who and what the hell are you?" Daniel asked, scrambling to his feet.
"I am..."
"Krampus," I finished for him.
"Impressive. Not too many people your age know who I am. Judging by your reaction to me, however, I bet you thought I wasn't real. Am I right?"
I nodded.
"You know what happens next then, don't you?"
Krampus said.
You have to be punished for all your wrongdoing.
And what exactly did I do? I asked. Krampus chuckled.
What haven't you done? You've lied and stolen. Also, we can't forget about you leaving Daniel here behind.
Does that mean you're only here for Blake? Daniel asked.
Oh no, I'm here for both of you.
Why me? Daniel whined.
You had a party that you knew would make a mess of your parents' home.
It was Blake's idea.
And you agreed to it. Let's also not forget the fact that you've been cheating off other students in class.
Oh, come on. Isn't that a bit much to hurt someone over? Krampus raised an arm in response. Daniel then made a run for the door. He wasn't fast enough, unfortunately. Krampus swung his chains, wrapping them around Daniel's leg. Then he began to pull him back as I used the opportunity to grab the keys for my dad's car off the counter and sneak out the back door. I ignored Daniel's screams of pain and terror and cries for help as I was running towards the driveway. I pushed the button on the keys to unlock the car. Shortly after, I was inside and starting it up. While backing out of the driveway, I looked up to see Krampus looking at me from the doorway. In an act of defiance, I flipped him off. I was expecting him to yell in anger or at least glare at me. Instead, a look of annoyance came over his face. I was confused, but didn't think much of it. Naturally, I was feeling pretty full of myself. That is, until I heard a thud on the top of the car and I felt it shake. The next thing I knew, the roof was torn off.
Santa and I go around the entire world in a single night. Did you really think I wouldn't be able to catch up to you?
Krampus said, tossing the detached roof away. What did you do to Daniel? I asked, glancing back.
See for yourself.
I heard the rattle of Krampus's chains. He dangled them in front of my face. Attached to the end of them was Daniel's severed head. His face was fixed in a permanent expression of terror.
He begged so much for me to stop. Don't worry, though. You'll be joining him soon,
Krampus said, pulling Daniel's head back. At this point, I was on the verge of shitting myself. Like hell, I shouted, then jerked the wheel really hard. Krampus let out a cry of surprise and lost his balance, falling out of the car. He managed to latch back on by hooking his chains to the bumper. Where is everybody? I wondered, opening the glove compartment. I knew it was late, but usually there were at least a few other cars on the road at this time. I shrugged off my concern and from the glove compartment pulled out my dad's pistol. I undid the safety, cocked it back, and began firing at Krampus. He cursed as bullets flew past him. The car suddenly came to a halt. My teeth rattled from the impact, and I turned around to see what had caused it. Krampus stood behind it with his hooves on the road. He was pulling on his chains, keeping the car in place. I tried to drive to no avail. The most obvious course of action to me at that time was to put the vehicle into reverse, then run the Christmas demon over. Things didn't go as I expected, however. Krampus sidestepped the car and grabbed me out of the driver's seat. Shit, I choked out while he was holding me by my throat. His fingers were like steel. No matter how hard I tried to pry them off, they wouldn't budge. Krampus held his sack up and with one tug undid the chains, keeping it closed. It fell open, revealing what was inside. What was in it haunts me to this day. A bright light washed over my face, followed by the sounds of pained screams. When the light died down, I could make out the faces of people in the sack. There had to be thousands of them, maybe even millions. All of them were being tortured in some horrific way. There were ones who were having their flesh torn off by these dragonfly-looking creatures. Others shrieked inside a pool of lava. At the same time, Some were gnawed on by a reptilian-looking monster with a large mouth. There were other tortures that I don't care to try and remember, but what has become burned in my memory is the way Krampus smiled at me.
Once I take your life, you'll go in there.
Krampus let his sack fall from his hands. Then he raised a hook. Before he could murder me, a look of frustration came over him.
Damn it,
he said, letting me go. Huh, what is it? I asked after landing on my feet.
Christmas Day.
It's midnight already?
Yes, you got lucky this year, Blake. I would change your ways if I were you. Should you encounter me next year, you may not be as fortunate.
I was too relieved to say anything in response. Krampus disappeared into the woods nearby. The air seemed to change when he was gone. To my surprise, I could no longer see my dad's car. I stood in the road for a bit until a car horn blared at me. I jumped at the noise, which turned out to be from a police car. He got out and asked me why I was out so late. I made up a story on the spot. I told him that I had invited Daniel over to spend the night, but that someone had broken in while we were sleeping. I then told him that the intruder had captured Daniel while I was able to get away. The cop took my statement, then drove me home. Christmas Day wasn't exactly cheery that year. My dad's car was reported stolen, and Daniel's parents grieved over his death and how he was killed in such a brutal way. The only positive thing about this experience was that it made me change. I no longer pranked teachers or stole from students, and I started donating to charities. I haven't seen Krampus since that day, and I never wish to again. Remember, if you are bad, a demon goat man may visit you on Christmas Eve and decapitate you. Then trap your soul in his bag of tortures. So,
Merry Christmas? Bye.
That's the end of this story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this story, please leave it a like. It does help out my channel. And also, if you haven't subscribed, I really hope you do so. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Until next time, thanks guys. Bye.